You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron. Now here's your host, Ethan Haristadoulou.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Greeks Gridiron and a happy NFL Sunday to you all. It's Ethan Haristadoulou here and we are diving into Monday Night Football action before Sunday's slate of games kicks off. We got Commanders going into Kansas City to take off the Chiefs. So as always, I invite you all to comment down below. Let me hear from you, your thoughts, your opinions on the matchup. As a reminder, I am taping this before the games have kicked off for Sunday, so I do not know the results of any of these games you're seeing up above me here on the screen, but if you're curious of who else I picked and my predictions for Sunday's games, you can see them all above up there. That being said, we got to take a look at this Monday Night Football matchup here as, again, Washington going into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, and I've got to say, I would like to know what exactly happened in Washington the last few weeks, or like what Washington did to deserve the scenario that they are currently in right now being put upon them by the football gods. You don't have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel on the field at the same time for what feels like the entirety of this season at this point now, and finally, Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin will be able to be on the field for you for the first time in weeks, and what happens? Jaden Daniels, knee injury. He's a no-go. Marcus Mariota is going to be the guy leading the way for you on offense. I don't really know how that happens and how that works itself out. Washington fans, I feel for you. On the flip side, you have Kansas City coming in. They're kind of rolling right now, especially offensively. It really feels like they've kind of figured things out. And quite possibly, Kansas City may have finally got that last infinity stone that they need to turn this offense back into the juggernaut that it was a few seasons ago. Rashee Rice was that final piece, and I think we started to see that open up, and really, we've seen the offensive Kansas City come to fruition and become what they were supposed to be, not only this season, but even last season as well. Travis Kelce was the main guy for that duration that Xavier Worthy and, of course, Rashee Rice were out. Obviously, Worthy injured, Rice serving the suspension. And that's not how this offense was supposed to be built. He was not supposed to be target number one. He is supposed to be target number 3 at best, or the beneficiary of target 1 and target 2 taking up a ton of attention and being able to capitalize and take advantage. And I think we saw the beginning of that last week for Kansas City, and that could be a big dictator in how this game plays itself out. Now, the first thing I want to look at, though, is going to be Marcus Mariota and how he fares against this Kansas City defense, because we've had a bit of a mixed bag from Marcus Mariota in the couple of starts that he's had for them. 1-1 as a starter for Washington so far this season. He's got 363 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns and an interception. He's got a rushing touchdown as well with a few yards on the ground. He had a good game against Las Vegas and then a bit of a mixed bag and a tough battle against Atlanta's defense, which admittedly is very good against the pass. They got a good pass rush over there. They got a lot of things going really well for them on the defensive side of the football. So not the end of the world. Their defense is giving a lot of QBs fits, so it's not something I'm going to hold too much against him, but it is something worth of note. Now, Kansas City's defense, they've been a pretty good unit so far this season. They're currently sitting at third best in the NFL in terms of points per game allowed at 17.7 points per game, so rounded to about 18 a game. They're fourth against the pass in terms of yardage allowed, with only 7 passing touchdowns allowed. That puts them amongst the top in the NFL. And then on top of that, you also have just a average or so run defense so far this season. So when you look at the way Kansas City has been playing defense, with about an average pass rush, when you look at the numbers, they don't really jump off the screen by any means. They're hanging somewhere around like anywhere from 15 to 18, depending on the number or metric you're trying to look at in terms of pass rush, whatever that number may be. They're somewhere within that ballpark. There is an opportunity that maybe Marcus Mariota could do a little bit of damage here. I don't think he's going to have like an all-world performance, especially with the way Steve Spagnuolo likes to call his defenses. It's definitely one of those things where he is going to challenge a team's backup quarterback to the best of their ability, but he will have some time, and that is to his benefit because Marcus Mariota against pressure this season has not been very great. You're looking at 44 yards. He does have a couple of touchdowns, but he has a pick, and he's completing about 31% of his passes. He's 5 of 16 when pressure is coming at him, so that's one of those things where you're hoping that a league average pass rush doesn't do too much damage against your backup quarterback, and hopefully hopefully Mariota has the opportunity to get the ball out quickly, and they scheme around what is currently going on in that situation where you have all your skill guys now, you're just missing your quarterback. So hopefully the offense is built in a way to kind of reflect and acknowledge that. This could be one of those games where Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who has been an interesting watch so far this season, because he's had some really big games and he's had some not so big games. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag, but the big games have been very big. And as I mentioned, 15th against the run right now for Kansas City. They're not particularly special when it comes to stopping the run, about league average or so, given something along the lines of, I forgot to write the number down, but it's like about 115, 110 yards or so per game on the ground allowed. Within that ballpark, it might be slightly less than that. Correct me on whatever the number is, feel free. But he has shown in the limited opportunities that he's had, or not limited opportunities, but in the opportunities he's had this season, he can have a big game. And he's had a few of them. And he's even shown in some of the limited pass catching opportunities that he's had that he can do some damage if you throw the football to him. So I'll be interested in seeing how the Commanders offense tries to draw things up in this one, because again, defense is pretty good against the pass. You don't really want to challenge them too much. There's a lot of high draft capital on that defensive side of the football over there in Kansas City, and some really good standout players. You got some all-pros opposite of you. So the way I see it, you don't want to challenge them too much through the air. Lean on the strengths of what you have, which is a Deebo Samuel who can play out of the backfield for you. He can catch passes for you, but he's one of those guys that you want to get the ball in his hands quickly rather than draw out a play to get it in his hands. Like, he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. Terry McLaurin, obviously, one of the more respected wide receivers in the NFL, one of the more sure things in the NFL. So get the ball into the hands of your playmakers as quickly as possible. That's kind of what I'm looking at here for Marcus Mariota and this Washington Commanders offense. On the flip side, you look at Kansas City. Their offense right now, it's rolling. The last month of football for Kansas City's offense has been pretty impressive. In the last couple of weeks, it's gotten a bit scary for defenses to deal with. You look at just Patrick Mahomes' numbers alone. 13 total touchdowns, 1 singular turnover. He has a couple of fumbles, but they didn't get lost. He has nearly 1,300 total yards of offense through the air and on the ground. And then Rashee Rice comes back last week against Las Vegas, 7 catches, 42 yards, nothing crazy, but a couple of touchdowns to go along with that. Opening things up, like I said, for Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. Even the running game really starting to get involved. You look at what they were able to do with the running back specifically. The offense as a whole, 152 total yards of rushing in that game against Las Vegas, but only 28 of those yards coming from Mahomes. That was probably one of the biggest criticisms everyone has had about this Chiefs offense right now, is that their leading rusher for several games this season was Mahomes, and that's not conducive of winning football in the Chiefs' style of play. You want them to have Mahomes throwing the ball, and you want your running backs leading the way. And what we saw last week, again, defense is now having to respect Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy's deep threat playability, and then Travis Kelce, who, now that there's guys that can take attention away from him, can find those soft spots within the defense, especially against zone coverage over the middle of the field. Defenses have to back up. They can't stack the box. We saw the running backs benefit from that altogether. Again, 152 total yards rushing, 28 of that coming from Mahomes. Washington's had about 2 strong defensive performances, I would say, so far this season against Los Angeles, the Chargers, that is, and the New York Giants. But they're coming off of a very abysmal performance against the Dallas Cowboys offense, which seems to be humming right now on all cylinders. 44 points allowed, and their pass defense right now, as it currently stands, 7.1 yards per play allowed through the air, and that's tied for 3rd most in the NFL. They're also 8th in passing yards allowed, and they've allowed 12 passing touchdowns, which puts them in the upper portion of the NFL. This is a tough game for Washington all the way through. You'd feel obviously a lot better if Jaden Daniels was there and was available for you. Knowing that he's not going to be there, I definitely think Kansas City's defense is going to key in on that. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe we see a little more blitz, a little more pressure trying to generate, again, because Marcus Mariota, not great against it so far this season in the limited action we've seen. It's definitely a tough way, no matter how you look at it, for Washington here. I do think, though, if there's anything that Washington should really try to capitalize, it is just see what they can do in challenging the Chiefs' left side of the offensive line. With Josh Simmons going to be out, they're going to be working with a backup in place, obviously. So trying to get after Patrick Mahomes' blind side might be the key to success for them there. But ultimately, as for who I think is going to win this matchup here, I would be hard-pressed to not take the Chiefs, so I am going to take Kansas City on this one. I think that ultimately, the way it plays out, Kansas City's offense is just a little too overwhelming, and ultimately, I don't know if I'm sorry, my cats just love to jump in during the recordings as of late, but that being said, I don't know if Washington is going to be able to keep pace with what the Chiefs offense is currently putting up right now. They've just been so extremely efficient. They've been able to get points on the board. Mahomes is dealing the ball through the air. It looks like the ground game is starting to figure itself out. And just the current state that we've seen Washington in, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing how they look with both their playmakers back, but ultimately, this feels like the Chiefs' game to lose more than anything else, and they are riding a wave of momentum right now, and I think that ends up being a bit problematic for those Washington Commanders. So that is my prediction for Monday Night Football. As always, I invite you all, comment down below. Let me hear from you, your thoughts, your opinion on the matchup, who's coming out on top and why. No betting advice here. We're just here for a good time. If you want to talk your bets, though, by all means, I'm always interested in seeing what you're all doing, but we're just doing this for a good time more than anything else. But that's it for me. I will see you all on Tuesday for Power Rankings once we wrap up week number 8 of the NFL. So until next time, have a good one.